This meeting is being recorded.
Hey, everybody. How are you today on this cool wintry day? I'm Kristine from the Easton Public Library, the Youth Services Librarian, and I have with me today joining us the fabulous HKMS Media Specialist, Alison Gale. How are you, Alison?
Hi, everyone. I'm well, Kristine. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. You know, not as freezing today as we have been for a little while, so that's good. Thank you so much for coming and chatting with us on Book Chat.
Of course, I'm really happy that you asked me to join. I've been looking forward to this.
Excellent. How are things going over at Helen Keller Middle School?
Everything is going great over here. I think we've passed the 100th day of school. Everything is in full swing. It's really nice being in a regular school year. Everyone's really happy. The kids are doing really great. Can just feel like the spirits have lifted. So it's been really great so far. Good school year.
That's good. That's really good. How long have you been the media specialist over at HKMS?
So this is my second year at HKMS as the media specialist. Prior to that, I had taught language arts for 8 years. So this is my 10th year in education, second year as media specialist.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yes, I've loved the switch. It was a great move for me. I was really happy teaching language arts. I was teaching at the time 7th grade, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I wasn't really looking to change districts or change my job title, but I had worked at Keller years ago, and I saw the job posting, and I was like, you know what, let me just see if they call, if they have me in for an interview, let me see how this kind of goes, because it wasn't something that I was sure that I wanted to do in my career. So I figured, why don't I try it now? This way I know, see if I like it. So I took the plunge, and I'm really, really happy I did. So it was a great switch for me.
Oh, that's so good. I mean, media specialists are so important for schools, and for a while, I think maybe it was a couple years, HKMS didn't have one, and it's such an important position for a school to have.
It is, yes. So I'm happy to be here, getting books back into the media center, getting the kids reading again, pushing into classrooms, doing lessons. I really like the collaborative aspect of it, of course, collaborating with the Easton Library. It's really nice to have all these partnerships and collaborations with different grade levels, different people in the community. So it's been a really great time so far. So.
Good. Hope we stick around, Alison.
Yes.
Excellent. That's great. Such important work. I'm so glad you're there. So we're going to talk about a book that you read. And it's a brand new book. Ours are checked out because it's a bestseller right now, but it is The Boys from Biloxi, and the subtitle is A Legal Thriller by John Grisham. It's brand new, so you must have read it just recently.
I did. I just finished it last week. And honestly, the only reason I read it was because on my Kindle, it kept coming up as like the advertisement when my Kindle was off. And every time I turned it on, that was the background. So I was like, okay, it's a pretty new book. And I finally clicked on like the little summary, and I was like, this sounds interesting. But being a bestseller, I was like, I'm sure it's checked out. I'll have to put it on hold. And when I went to look for the book to put it on hold, it was available. So I clicked the button right then and there, and I read it, and I am glad that the marketing or the advertisement on my Kindle got me, because it was a really great read.
Oh, that's good. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
So it's a legal thriller. It follows these two families down in Mississippi, and kind of their two different paths that they take within their community. And one is kind of the rough side of town. They're into some illegal activities. And the other family is the family of justice. They are trying to clean up their area. They want to get rid of the underworld that they have. And so it's about their law aspect. And so these two families go in different directions, and the sons end up becoming friends in childhood. And then as they get older, they kind of follow their father's paths into the underworld and into the law side of things. And then it all comes to a head. So it was really interesting. It wasn't told in different points of view. I know sometimes books like that have the different characters' perspectives. It was my first book, I believe, by reading from John Grisham, and I really enjoyed it. I like reading about the kind of like legal aspect of things. I'm not familiar with the legal system that much, the justice system, but I found it really interesting.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, he's very good at writing legal stories and making it, I think, somehow easily understandable and approachable and enjoyable to your average, not a lawyer, don't know the ins and outs of the legal system kind of reader, which is really, that's quite a talent to do.
Right. It was definitely very accessible, like you said, to the average reader. You don't have to have a law degree to read these types of books. So it was really interesting. And I liked it because it took place mostly in the late 60s, early 70s. So there was kind of that historical aspect to what was going on in that region at the time. I don't know how much of it was factually accurate. I haven't done a lot of digging in that, but again, it was a nice kind of change of scenery. I hadn't read a book that took place during that time with that kind of, plot line. So I learned a lot.
Yeah, that sounds great. What do you generally like to read?
So I love mysteries and thrillers. I would like to read some more of these legal thrillers. Over the summer, I had borrowed from my dad a book that was written by Christopher Darden, who wrote about his perspective in the OJ trial. And that was really fascinating. That was definitely like law heavy, not for as much of the average person, but I found that really interesting. So then when I read this book, I was like, maybe I should explore this kind of genre a little bit deeper. So I'm looking forward to that. But usually mysteries, thrillers, not really into fantasy, although that is very big here at Keller. Our fantasy section is there's always checkouts or always having to refill the shelves. So that's definitely popular here. And actually, on that note, I saw in one of your other videos that you have never read Harry Potter.
I know. Isn't that funny? My kids, they never really got into it particularly. So I kind of just, well, if they're not really interested in it, I just kind of went with what they were interested in. They really liked all the Percy Jackson, Rick Riordan, that whole series and all the ones that came after it. They liked those. And they do give me some good recommendations. Like I always come home with, we got in, because every month we get in new books, and I'll bring in a stack that I think they might like, and they'll pick through and yes, no. And in the past couple years, I think I've really thought, well, I need them to give me recommendations now, because they're big readers, and kids, they know a good book, man. So right. I love getting recommendations from kids. Like I recommend books to you kids all the time. Give me some. So I love that.
Yeah.
I know, but never read Harry Potter. I think the age limit, like I was too old for Harry Potter to be for my group, and my kids were just a little too young for it to really be for theirs. I mean, although honestly, my daughter is reading Harry Potter 4 right now, Iris, who's in your school.
Okay.
So she does like them, but the other two didn't like them so much.
Yes, I grew up reading them. So I reread them in adulthood. And then I actually, over the summer, had found this crime thriller series that I loved. And the books were like 800 pages. But being the summertime, that was great. And so I got to the end of the first book and I was like, wow, I really enjoyed this. And it was part of a series. So I was like, now I have something, to read next. I really liked that aspect of it. And I flipped to the back of the book, and it said something about the author, and they're like, oh, this author, Robert Galbraith, is a pen name for J.K. Rowling. And I was like, what? So I was like, oh my gosh. So I've been reading that series, and they actually just came out with one, I believe in August. Even though the series, the first one came out 2013 maybe. And it was one of those things where I just randomly discovered the series. I loved it. I got to the end of the series and I was like, oh, it's over. And then I went on Google and it said, you know, the eighth book was going to be coming out the next month. And I was like, what are the chances of that? So yeah. Usually I'm not really a series person. Just because I find, and I've had this conversation with the kids at school, right? The first book is really great. The second book, right? The characters come back. You're like, okay, great. I know the plot line. I know the characters already. Then you get to the third book and you're like, and then beyond that, we were saying, you know, it's just, it either gets too far-fetched, or it's like, you know, how many times can this person live through these catastrophic disasters? So we were saying that, you know, we're finding that in a lot of our book series is that 1 is great, 2 is pretty good, and then beyond that kind of goes down the drain. And we said the similar about some of the TV series that are out there. You know, they can get a really great 1 or 2 seasons, but then after that, you know, for Stranger Things is a perfect example. You know, how many times are the kids gonna, you know, escape the monster?
Yeah.
So yeah, but and I do find that in our media center, the most checkouts are again those first 1 through 3 books of the series, and then even if we have the whole rest of the series, it just doesn't get the checkout and the eyes on it. So.
Yeah, the one thing about series that are fun too is you kind of feel like you're friends with the characters because you've been with them through all kinds of stuff, and yeah, then when the series is over, you kind of miss them a little bit.
Yes.
Which is good for a book. If that's what a book can do for us, right? If you miss the characters because you feel like you know them, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I heard the bell ring there, so you're changing periods.
Classes, yeah. So I know you guys have this on Hoopla, I believe. But I read this last week and I thought it was a really great young adult nonfiction option. And plus, who doesn't love dogs?
Exactly. Really.
But I really enjoyed this. It was a really nice story. It's about this dog who is in the desert and these people are running some sort of ultra marathon, and the dog Gobi finds this man that he kind of attaches to and starts running with. And the guy's like, okay, you know, we're in the middle of the desert. I need to run this marathon. But eventually the dog just keeps coming around and he, you know, ends up falling for the dog and wants to adopt him and take him back. And then the dog goes missing and it's this whole big thing. But I found it very interesting. It was a nice quick read, but a good nonfiction option for students. And I know I meant what I wanted to talk about, if I didn't get to talk about The Boys from Biloxi, was this book, American Murderer, which I know you guys have. But I haven't gotten a chance to start it yet. Have you read it?
I haven't read all of it. When they come in, you know, that one especially drew my attention. So I did read a number of the pages, just kind of going through, and it is amazing. What a great story that I think not only kids, it's great for middle school kids, but how many adults, like, I just did not realize the extent of that parasite, and you know how it had to do with the class that people were in, people who lived in poverty, how they were especially affected because they didn't have money for shoes and they went around barefoot, and that's how the parasite gets in. And the photos and the documents in there are amazing.
Right. Yes, I haven't got, like I said, I haven't gotten a chance to read it yet, but it's on my list. We have a couple of books by this author, and the kids at school especially love looking at the pictures because there's some pretty.
There's some gruesome ones.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I'm like, you're entering at your own. But yes, sometimes though, books like this, like I was like, am I going to be scared to like go swimming or be outside barefoot in the summer?
Yeah.
So, you know, because once you read it, you can't unread it.
That's right. But that's a great one. And it's nothing that's not obviously appropriate for them, but like I think they have pictures in there of parasites that they have removed from people that are way long.
Right. And I think that books like this are good because I think the visual is so important for some of these things because, you can talk about like, oh, the parasite was, 8 feet long or whatever. But then when you actually see like, something stretched out and so I tell them like the visual components, especially of like nonfiction books, just it allows you to really grasp the intensity, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have that visual component to it.
Yeah.
So I think, sometimes people are like, oh, like, there's pictures in it or whatever. Like that's not necessary, but it is. And it showcases a time in history where, we're maybe not as exposed to these old photographs, images.
Yeah. I think also, especially for kids, if you can see, because there's a lot of pictures of kids in the book, so it really helps them put themselves, it is like that mirror where like, oh, look, here are kids. They're about my age. They were going through something completely different than my life experience. And also for the images, like you said, they described like one of the sort of symptoms of this parasite is it made the eyes kind of bulgy. And it gave people a very specific like physical attribute. And it's hard, you hear that and you're like, okay, well, you kind of try to picture it, but then they have portraits of like victims or patients, and you then it's really clear and it's really easy to understand.
Right.
Yeah, yes. That's a good, and even the cover, I mean, that was a genius cover design because it looks like someone in like a cloak being all scary, and it's called American Murder, and you're like, ah, and it's a worm, which is even more.
Yes. And it's always one of those covers, right, where, we've had it out on display and everyone who walks by is like, oh, what is that? And I'm like, well, flip it open, find out. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great one.
The cover was good marketing for them.
And the title.
And the title, yes.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Alison, thank you so much for talking with me on Book Chat today. This was great. I love it. We got 3 books for the price of 1.
Yes. Always happy to chat with you, Kristine.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So The Boys from Biloxi, we do have available here. All of our copies are checked out because it's so popular. And we also have it as a downloadable ebook and a downloadable audiobook. And we have Finding Gobi on Hoopla, downloadable, I want to say ebook, but I can't remember for sure. And we have American Murderer sitting right out there in the young adult nonfiction, waiting for you to come in and see all those amazing photographs. So thanks for chatting with me, Alison, and stay well and, keep on doing the good work over at HKMS.
Thank you so much, Kristine. It was great to speak with you.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.